Hi, I'm Dr. Stan Steindl. Welcome to Compassion in a T-shirt. Today I'll be speaking with a great friend and colleague from the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers. Patrick Berthiaume is a French Canadian from Montreal. Patrick has a background in sexology and he worked for many years at the coalface of suffering, working with those who were experiencing homelessness, were struggling with addictions, and were involved in sex work. Through all that work, he learned what it meant to be helpful and to have helpful conversations, and the role of qualities like humility, vulnerability, and of course, compassion. A motivational interviewing trainer who travels the world presenting on this topic, we discuss ambivalence, discord, empathy and empowerment, non-judgment and safeness, and how compassion opens us up and allows us to welcome all of that in. It's a rich conversation, jam-packed with lots of takeaways. And so I bring you Patrick Berthiaume. We might get started. Patrick Berthiaume, welcome to Compassion in a T-shirt.
Thank you, Stan. I'm very happy to be there with you today. Yeah.
You are a dear friend, and I do know a lot about your sort of early work. You really worked at the coalface, I think, of compassionate action. You were sort of working on the streets with people who were homeless or really struggling with addiction and sort of involved in sex work. And, I wondered if we could start there, just sort of set the scene. What was your work there and perhaps the lessons really that the people that you worked with and served, the lessons they taught you or the experiences taught you?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, I'm very happy to be there today and share with you maybe the lessons or what I've learned from people that was on my 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 path and So, so, so maybe just maybe people, it will be obvious, but my first language is French. I'm from a little town from out of Montreal, where was at the time, I think the one of the biggest francophone city in Canada at that time. So I start learning English when I came to Montreal, so around 20 years old. So and I decide at that time. So just if you want to do a great complex reflection or just try to reframe what I say, you're more than welcome. You don't need to ask permission about it. So
Okay.
but when I came in Montreal, I was really ambivalent to know to decide in which field that I was looking to study, and I decided to go in sexology. So in Quebec, you are able to go at the university and only study in sexology. So I did all my years in sexology, and well, lucky or not, when I moved to Montreal, I start to stay in a area where I didn't know, but it was an area of male sex workers. And I figured it out because when I came back from school, from some cars slowed down and asked me if I was sailing myself and things like this. So and then the eyes of the little country guys was just open of another reality and it's not and I was looking at that time to find some things to be volunteers and do some things for the community, but also to just help somewhere and just only do my study. So I decide to knock on the doors or on different communitary organizations, and one of them was open to let me jump in and help with the people on the street. And it was at the beginning I was working for a community organization who was helping minor prostitutes. So that's where I start. And then I was with the organization for 5 years, and then I go in other organization who was more helping adult sex workers. So it was very, for me, it was, I always said that it was my life teacher. It was amazing how come, um, well, and we will probably discuss about that, but I'm very interesting about the importance and the impact of vulnerability, and working side by side with peoples who are stigmatized as the worst reality, which is homeless, sex workers, drugs addictions, and things like this. Um, th- they kind of seen by people as a prey, as a that's the right word.
As a
Uh,
prey, as a pariah of society.
yeah, exactly. Yes. And so and to see people in those reality wanting to maintain their own dignity, and trying to maintain the willingness of life, and try to find their own way of survive, and it's really move, and it gave myself to really feel the real horizontal connection with others, because you really early at the beginning understand that if you keep a vertical relation with them, with people, it doesn't make anything. It's or it stay as a give and take relationship, which is not necessarily something's really more equal, or things like this. So you learn very fast with this with people who live in that kind of situation, to really step down of your own sea of life, and really understand very soon that your own uh, true your own truth are not the truth of of everyone, and you have to step down of your own beliefs of what is right and what is not. And for me, that's where I think the biggest learning curve that I had in my life probably be to living close and with those different reality. And that's where also I think it's really helped me to learn how to really try to avoid any judgmental point of view, and really open your heart to really well, I don't need to go further about compassion with you, but I think it's really where I start having a really um, a very a compassion regard for humanity in general, but it starts, I think, with to be close with those different realities. Yeah.
Yeah, I can sort of picture this wide-eyed country boy who came to Montreal and you were quite quickly, I guess, taught some lessons, people stopping in their cars and, sort of approaching you and things like that. And um, but yeah, really, this sense of compassion was already there. You wanted to do some sort of voluntary work.
Hmm.
You wanted to help people.
Yeah.
You knocked on
Yeah.
doors. You were very proactive there, and found yourself in this very this different reality that you suddenly were in a different reality, and people were both terribly vulnerable and at the same time determined to sort of fight for their own dignity and their own uh, sort of decisions in choices in life, I guess. And so, the vulnerability on the one hand sometimes makes us want to step in and really kind of look after them and fix everything. And then on the other hand, they sort of can sometimes, fight back, and we don't want to impose our own reality onto their reality. We this notion of you discovered and really understood the diverse realities that people might experience, and we don't want to
Yeah.
impose our reality, especially in that kind of judging, even shaming kind of way, but rather really engage with others' realities and sort of step into that while we speak with them and listen to them and try to somehow be compassionate or be helpful. What did
Mm.
you notice with perhaps the young people or the adults too that you were working with? Like what happens if someone tries to step in and fix them, do you think?
Um, but on my path of motivational interviewing, I remember one day I read an article from a Swedish person, a researcher, and it gave me it really opened my eyes that basically empathy and reinforced autonomy or empowerment are the two basic important needs that people uh, request or wait from others, and the reverse of empathy, it's being judgmental, and the reverse of empowerment, it's getting control, and and for me it was very so working with someone who, because I was and maybe some things which is important, it's I was working with male prostitute and or male sex workers, I'm sorry, but so there is less peoples who are, and at least in Montreal, there is less peoples who are there not by choice. It's maybe it's for sure if they would be for a lot of them, if they would be open to choice something else, they would choice maybe something else. But with other reality, it's for me sometimes different. So so learning how to give uh, positive and love regards without judgment for someone who are in a situation where it's so easy, and I think a lot of some people in my head taking from granted that you have some judgment toward them. So so learning to be further that what they granted toward you with towards the judgment, and also acknowledge their own autonomy and their own empowerment, even if they take some choices which is not necessarily the one that a lot of people would like for them. Um, it's a very learning process to really open your heart and really try um, to um, to put away of your educational family background or any beliefs or faith beliefs that you from where you grew up, of what it's right and what it's not. And and finding that behind all those stigma there is a human, and well, yeah, that's where for me I'm so grateful about what I've learned with
Mm.
this path.
Yeah, the male sex workers, I guess, that you were working with, they that there was a degree actually that of choice to be there. That had circumstances been different, perhaps they might have made other choices, but in a sense they were making the choice, and perhaps even felt that it was there were some really upsides to that. They were there was something really functional about that choice for them in their lives. And then when a sort of a supportive type worker comes to sort of be helpful, a lot of these men would have preconceived ideas already that this other person would perhaps be more judgmental and more controlling. That was, well, it might have even been their experience previously, but that was their expectation now, and they sort of were ready to have that fight
Yeah.
almost, and but for the support worker to be able to set aside their own biases, I guess, the various biases that they might hold from their upbringing and their life experiences and their values and their education, which was an interesting one that you put in there, to set aside those biases and really lean into empathy and or sort of autonomy or empowerment. That becomes a wholly different experience then for the man that you're working with as well.
Yeah. and 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 um, and not everyone, but a big proportion of them. It I was not the first intervenant or someone who tried to help them. So they usually have uh, an easy way to explain their background, and they as you said, they have the preconscious bias to think that you want to fix them, and if you're there, it's to try to put them away of where they are. And this is where the spiral and the circle are usually put it worse than helpful. So it's yeah.
Yeah. There's a sense that maybe for them too, there was some ambivalence though. That
Mhm.
if they anticipate someone's coming in to try to make them change, then they sort of resist. But if a person comes in and empathizes and supports their choices and helps to empower, then maybe they discover that there is some ambivalence there. So talk to us a bit about that notion of ambivalence, really, in the people you were working with.
Well, but this is some things I think I appreciate with the recent book from Bill Miller and also what Alan Zukoff worked with the ambivalence because well when I first realized in with the work with ambivalence that one of the biggest or major motivation of someone's it's to preserve a positive image of ourselves. It makes me so open my eyes of all the strategy that we create as human to preserve the positive image of ourselves and even to create a false reality or to lie on things and that's where for me it's so important to go um, behind and further than that what the person just say or do or project of what they were because this is some things really for me it did a big shift in my head to really realize that to really change some things in our lives we need to be vulnerable and asking for help and having some doubt on ourselves or on what we do request vulnerability if we are not able to acknowledge that it's not necessarily the best for us or so we are kind of torn between preserve a self positive self image and at the same time wanted to well the first maintain our own autonomy but also it's so also being open of the doubt that we have that what we do it's not necessarily the best so we are kind of torn or squeezed in those so this is for me the first ambivalence it's the first ambivalence it's not necessarily toward the behavior or the bad habit the first ambivalence it's do I feel enough comfortable and enough secure to share with with the person with who I speak that I have some doubt with about some things. This is for me the first ambivalence usually that we have. It's the ambivalence to disclose to well to yeah to be vulnerable to disclose ourselves it's and to doing this it's you have to feel secure if you're not feeling secure it's very hard to disclose yourself so for me it's the first ambivalence when you are in interaction with others because with yourself, to be honest, I don't remember having meeting someone and when I look my own life, I have sometimes bad habit or and others having some bad habit, and I never really, I think, meet someone who never at all have a small bite of doubt of what they are doing. It's not necessarily the best. So with ourselves, uh, this is something's very, I think, frequent and but to disclose with others, this is the big step. And I think the first ambivalence that people having, it's the ambivalence to be genuine and authentic and disclose yourself, because you know that if you are doing this, you are at risk that the other ones will take the opportunity to want it to work with you, to do something else, and to behave better and things like this. So you are kind of quite torn or squeezed with that
I had someone
at first.
talk. I had someone talk, come and see me recently, and I'd seen her a couple of years ago, and then I hadn't seen her for a couple of years, and the last I'd heard was she'd started a new relationship and so on. But when I saw her just this week, the relationship had ended. And one of the things that she said, which was sort of, yeah, it was a bit hard to hear in a way, but she sort of said that she hadn't come back to see me in that 2 year period because she knew that if she came to see me and started talking about the pros and cons of this relationship and the way that this relationship was sort of really becoming problematic for her, that she would really have to then start to really confront the idea of whether change was actually necessary, that she hadn't come along because she knew that expressing the ambivalence that she was feeling inside to me would almost have to convince her to have to end the relationship.
Mhm,
And I think that's kind of a little bit what you're describing, that people feel maybe an internal ambivalence. On the one hand, they might have this sense of wanting to maintain a positive image of how things are, but then there's also a kind of a self-actualizing almost instinct in there as well, an instinct towards growth and change and well-being and improvement. And so, in any given moment, people are a bit torn about what they're doing and so on. But to actually take that step to go and then express that ambivalence to somebody, that makes it real, sort of thing. And it
mhm,
it it's it feels, then there's another ambivalence, which is, do I speak about this or don't I? Because even if that person's not going to try to tell me what to do about it, I still have to examine it. I still have to examine my own
mhm,
feelings of ambivalence. And there needs to be that real sense of safeness and security in that relationship,
mhm,
and real courage and strength
mhm,
in the person themselves to be in that position of vulnerability and really examine with someone else
mhm.
these two sides or these mixed feelings that they have about what they're doing.
That's maybe that's one of the reason that I'm so interested of that topic, because it's for me it's like doing a coming out. It's the day that you express yourself of being gay, you cannot go back. It's so you have to live with the genuineness and the authenticity, but you are now also realize that it's very hard for me to say the right word. It's pray. It's um,
Is it pariah? Is that the word that you're
Pare, but you know
pariah?
when they have the weak bird on the floor, and they can be trapped by a bigger bird or something like this.
Right. Pray.
It-
Pray is the
right?
word there,
Praise,
I think. Yeah.
because it's mostly the same word in French. But so you know that when you disclose yourself, you're now prey. So it's
I see.
it's a big it's a it's a big courage, like as you said. It's the courage towards with yourself, and it's also courage with the others. And that's where for me, That's why I really appreciate all the recent work on ambivalence because first, first for me, the to preserve the positive self-image, it's for me, I truly understand that it's a really big motivation and it's torn with the fact that you want to be genuine and your own values of integrity and congruence and coherence. So this is a big ambivalence. And I think the other ones, it's wanted to avoid suffering. So we do a lot of things to avoid suffering. But like you just explained with the person who just came to see you, she, she was really probably torn of what it's the less suffering. It's to stay within the couples or to go away, and you're torn, and the level of making your choice, it's the level of suffering of what you feeling. And for me, I always try to maintain those two motivation when I work with someone, because I really thinking of the others have his own self-protection and of feeling secure enough to really disclose themselves and to be really conscious of the fact that it's that we are all have our own path, and the protection that we have are not there for nothing. It's they are there for to preserve your surviving social interaction. So it's
Mm.
so for me, it's two component very important to never forget. It's yeah.
And as the great Australian sage Kylie Minogue once said,
Mhm.
better the devil you know, sort of thing. And
Mhm.
we often are quite fearful of change because we don't actually know whether the suffering's going to be better or worse or what's going to happen if we make that change. And so sometimes we, like you say, maintain that sort of positive image about how the way things are right now and just sort
Mhm.
of, without change. We started with sort of talking around discord, which is that sense that if people feel judged and controlled, they are much more likely to push back and resist, even if they just anticipate that they're going to be judged and controlled. They push back and resist. Versus if we approach them with empathy and autonomy support and empowerment. So there's the sort of the discord piece. We've been talking about the ambivalence piece, that in amongst that, people are just naturally feeling different ways about things and having mixed feelings about, kind of whether to stay the same or whether to make a change, but even whether to bring this up with somebody or to dare to discuss these doubts, that they might be feeling with others. Where does compassion fit in the kind of like almost like a little triangle there for you? What's the compassion piece?
But but there is a lot, and I would take the opportunity to really be grateful to you because I first meet the compassion focused therapy because of you, and then you've been so inspired for me that I went to be trained from with Paul Gilbert. But one of the things who really helps me in general, and I think it's also with the lessons with working with on the street, but. But I never, I tried always to remember that I never met someone who intentionally wanted to uh, harm themselves or make it themselves worse that where they are. I don't know anyone who wake up in the morning and say, how can I harm my health? Oh, I will smoke a cigarette. It's people don't have any bad intention toward themselves. Toward others, this is would be another topic, but toward themselves, even someone who cut themselves. They're doing it to alleviate their own suffering. So there is no bad intention that we have toward ourselves. And so for me, it's always important to make the distinction between intention and manners. So what they are doing, it's maybe where we would like to, but for me, intentionally are really when I work with someone, it's really for me important to really acknowledge the intention of what the person do or think. And for me, this is a really important piece of where compassion helped me because for me, if we always have the regards that the person don't try to harm themselves, it's really more easy to open your heart to someone else and just realize and to really be curious that if it's not the intention of others, let's try to understand more. That's also for me the difference that we can do between compassion and empathy. Both of them are quite intertwined, but it's still for me really have a strong and deep belief that no one's tried to harm themselves and have the intention to harm themselves. This is important. For me, it's really helpful to really expand your compassion towards others, and that's for me the things it's really important more than ever. And I think I repeat that the book from Bill and what Alan Zukoff come up with ambivalence really helps me to have another point of view about compassion, about ambivalence, and and more than ever, when I see that the person that with I work with, it's very hard for that person to too much speak about the target behavior that we are discussed to. I really go back to the ambivalence that they have within themselves. It's and 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 I try to more today I gave a supervision, and the person share a tape where the person was really looking to try to express how much she was proud to be able to do really many things by herself, and she really explained in the tape how much she was happy to be able to do things by herself. And at the same time, she was not necessarily very able to get out from her own home and from where she lives. And the person who held them was really digging in the fact of the importance to get out and to do things by herself and things like this. And we really was able to feel that the person took some distance of the discussion. And for me, in those kind of situation, it's really important to go back of the the pure or the basic ambivalence, which is how is it for you to feel torn between the fact that you are proud of what you are doing by yourself and the fact that it's very hard for you to go out and do things out of your home? How does it feel to feel squeezed or torn within yourself, and and avoiding talking too much about the behavior, but talking more about the inner tension, to have those two parts and really let them express how is it to feel torn. And that's where, for me, that more that we are able to acknowledge that it's normal to feel torn, and to welcome the fact that that the person are squeezed or are really in tension with that. It's like some things release at that time, and then it will be more easy to speak about the behavior or things like this. But keep the agenda on the behavior in those situations. For me, it's just put it some oil on the fire. It's I don't know if you say the same expression in English,
Yeah.
but it just creates some more tension. So it's
Mm.
yeah,
Yes, judgment from us or from the listener in that instance really closes us down. It sort of it takes us to a much more inflexible, closed kind of place. Whereas compassion opens us up, and we
exactly.
can be sort of curious about what this human life is like for this person, and compassion helps us to, as Paul Gilbert talks about, the tricky brain, and it's not our fault, and so we're
Exactly.
able, and ambivalence is actually one of those things that is built in, really. That's the book from Bill and Alan's work. Alan has been a guest on Compassion in a T-shirt before, so
Yeah,
if anyone wants to think or listen to some more about ambivalence,
and they
Alan's
should. Yeah,
episode is really great too. But yeah, that ambivalence itself is just part of the human brain, and to have second thoughts, to have certain doubts, to wonder about, is this the best way to go, or is that the best way to go? Actually, we can really honor that process, and there are real benefits to ambivalence. It helps us to
exactly.
think it through, carefully, and
The,
what
I
what's
really
what to
like
do.
I'm sorry.
Please go.
I really like the call that, for me, ambivalence, it's just the signal that we have to slow down. It's and it's just because we are not totally attuned and I think if we think like this, if we think that intentional, we don't want to harm ourselves. So what we are doing, it's the things that I think that we think it's not necessarily the best, but it's some things that it's less suffering that doing something else that we don't know what will happen if we doing it. And and the craving in general of change, it's not necessarily easy also to feel. It's we frequently relate craving to addiction, but for me, for any kind of behavior, it's making some change. You can feel some craving, and craving are an uncertainty. It's not an easy feeling. It's so so
Mm.
so wanted to avoid it. I really like. Sometimes I use the metaphor of being. I so remember the first time I've been in a pool, and I remember staying on the on the on
On the edge.
the on the edge of the pool, and my parents was just behind me and say, well, don't worry, everything will be all right. And I was like, never, I don't want to leave this. So sometimes we stay in some behavior or beliefs or things like this because it's feel more secure than go somewhere else where we don't know where we will go. So it's and it's for me, and I frequently use that metaphor because I think most everyone can relate with that metaphor and for me that and that's where self-compassion is also another
Yes.
helpful way. It's we don't stay on the hedge for the pleasure of suffering. We stay on the hedge because it's more secure, even if rationally we know that it's not necessarily the best for us.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yes, exactly. I think one of the points that I'm getting from you is that even harmful behaviors will often have an intention behind those behaviors to actually alleviate or prevent suffering in a way, or at least to create a sense of safety and that sort of thing. It's often somewhere in the threat system that we're dealing with the fight, flight, freeze, appease. We're sort of dealing with anger and anxiety. We're trying to sort of not feel that suffering, and so we cling on to the edge, metaphorically or literally, rather than make a change. You just mentioned self-compassion, and you'd previously talked about a sort of internal tension. And it made me think about how, in some ways, we've been talking about a more interpersonal dynamic that's happening between people. But it occurs to me that there's an internal dynamic that can often be the same, before a person's even worried about seeking any sort of help or conversation about it, that there might be different parts of the person almost that are in discord with each other, and
Exactly.
and that if a certain part is kind of pushing or even demanding and then kind of criticizing and sort of, even if it is in the direction of change, then another part is pushing back and arguing back and sort of getting louder at the same time, and we're left with this internal discord, and maybe self-compassion comes in there somewhere. But yeah, what are your thoughts about that more internal version of all this?
Well, sometimes and I just hope that I will not be judgmental right now, but I'm amazed sometimes when I give trainings how much people, when I talked about ambivalence, they are so thinking about their own patients and like like if their own the ambivalence of the patient are so quite different than their own ambivalence. And for me, more than ever, I really try in my training to come back to their own experience. I think the experience of ambivalence, it's the same for everyone. The patient are not different than what we are, and the discomfort, the general discomfort of ambivalence, it's the same for you, Stan, that it is for me, and it's just only the context or the target which are sometimes different, but the feeling are the same, and that's for me. It's really important to really try to offering some empathetic listening for ourselves, but also compassion for ourselves toward the fact. And that's where for me, if we realize that it's not intentional to harm ourselves, it's much more easy to welcome and to just be less rude how we can be with ourselves. For sure, and every time then I say this, people say, "Well, okay, I agree with you, but it doesn't resolve anything." It's and but that's where for me the, the the fear that we have to disclose our own ambivalence, it's because we are afraid that the other person will take the opportunity to really try to fix you, or the person will try to convince you that, well, yes, it's true, you should change, and those kind of pressure who make us really um, vigilant, or very yeah, that the person will take the opportunity to be dominant, to but it's the same with ourselves. It's not different. The self-criticized part will take the opportunity if you have some doubt, and you just making realize the woman that you just speak about it. I would be curious to ask her how long that she was thinking that she should or not step out of her relationship. So, my God, how much energy she probably step in to just be ambivalent and have it, and the self-criticize. If you're just open a window, or just open a window of doubt, the other part of what is right in your life and you should do will take the opportunity to start give you so that's why for me it's really important to just welcome both of them, and making that's where for me the call or the signal of slowdown. That's where for me, if we are ambivalent, it just to realize that we have different part of ourselves, or in a tension or in a battle, and we have to slow down to just welcome both the different part and both side of it, and maybe taking that time just to, we say that it's a slow down movement, but we could say also that it's a movement to be aligned with our own values, with our own truth, and that's where maybe that habit long time ago was okay at that time, but it may be not okay in the time today, and but we are so used or so feel secure with that habit that it's hard for us to think that we have to say goodbye to it. So the tension can start. So it's not to start be criticized with any part of it. It's just to welcome, and that's where for me the compassion is very useful. And then when we welcome those different parts, it's more easy to really take the time of watching of what it's aligned with where I am now, and what maybe I want for my future. So that's for me the yeah the
You and
definition.
I are both big fans of motivational interviewing, and just as I'm listening to you there, I can sort of, translating it into MI, there really is that change talk and sustain talk that might be going on. That the person's arguments
Totally.
for change, a part of them might be exploring that, and then their arguments against change, and they might be exploring that, and then there's ambivalence there and mixed feelings, and sometimes feelings of doubt and that sort of thing. but then there's this internal process of self-criticism that then comes into the conversation, and all of a sudden might be criticizing one side or the other, but is also just simply criticizing the fact that there is ambivalence at all. And sort of
Exactly.
and that's what the
Exactly.
person's worried that a therapist or a clinician or a practitioner is going to do,
Or the
is going
friend.
to, or a friend or a family member or whoever is going to criticize them for their ambivalence. But that can happen as an internal process. Um, and well, actually, just to sort of stop there for a sec, like I guess we need to sort of think about, therefore, the intention and the function of the self-criticism. And I think you would say we bring compassion not only to the ambivalence, but also to that critical part as well.
But
So yeah, what are your thoughts there?
but that's why for me it's so useful just to go back with the person to say, how is it to feel torn between between the sustain and the change talk? It's how does it feel to be squeezed? So for a moment or two, just put on the side the behavior or the bad habit and just speaking about the discomfort to be squeezed between the two of it. And I think more that you are welcome in the fact that with the discomfort and that it's irrational to be squeezed right now, and it's so uncomfortable to be on one side and the others and things like this, and to be so welcome with ourselves or when we have someone with who I help. It's and and that's where for me the work on ambivalence right now to just normalize the fact that it's incoherent to be on to feeling like this, and just to be acknowledged about that. There is some things to relief. So that's where for me it's really important to welcome and acknowledge that that ambivalence and that discomfort. It's yeah.
There really is, in a lot of your work and our conversations over the years, you really sort of emphasize the role that vulnerability plays there, that humility kind of plays, and then also, therefore, the role that strength and courage plays, to just be in that place of ambivalence and being able to kind of sit in that discomfort and explore it and slow things down and kind of take the benefits of that, that in terms of what might eventually be decided, while at the same time softening some of that tension and discord or self-criticism that's kind of there.
Yeah, for me it's some things that it's I so make me amaze how much the word vulnerability from I think most of the language in the world can mean strength and can mean weakness. So for me it's that's for me vulnerability and humility are quite connected together, and being humble, that it's hard. It's that to be humble, that I'm not without doubt, and I'm not a Superman, and I have some weakness, and the fact that I realize that I have some weakness, I think make me stronger. And that's where for me the vulnerability it's very important. The problem in general, I think, in communication or in relationship, it's if you are just a little bit vulnerable, you are at risk that if the other ones can say, well, so you can change if you're it's so easy, you just have to do this, or you are starting to say, oh yes, me too, I feel the same as you, I had the same problem a few years ago, and I did this thing. It's so hard for people are just welcome and give space of the vulnerability of others. And it just remind me another supervision and, and the practitioner, the person said, well, it's so hard because when I come to see you after the session, I so want to change, and I'm very keen to do some things. And then 3 days after, well, things go away, and and then the person, the practitioner, start and say, well, what you can do to making sure that you can maintain the, and we stopped the tape, and I said, well, what the person just said, sh- sh- and how before going further we are able to welcome the person just disclose herself. She's being nude to from the other person to say that it's not easy for her. Can we just acknowledge and welcome what the person said before want to moving to something else? And for me, more we are able to acknowledge, welcome, and sometimes taking step further, saying to someone, it must be hard for you to be squeezed in those situations, even if the person said, no, it's not very hard for me. The person just realized that it's possible in front of me to say that it's hard. So, so, so even if it's not the case, it just give her the signal that she could be vulnerable and secure to be herself. And if she are able to doing it, it will be more easy for her to do something else. And it's for me, it's so important to really be attuned of what the person and to ourselves too. It's to ourselves too. It's well, I think I frequently forget that it's the same with ourselves. So it's at least it's the same with myself. So it's
Hmm.
yeah.
Not wanting to put you too much on the spot then, but I wondered in amongst all of that, what if someone is sort of struggling with this kind of internal tug of war and this internal tension, and there's a part that wants change, a part that perhaps doesn't want change, a part that feels critical of that. What would be a little compassionate message, I guess, that you might offer that just kind of helps them move forward?
Mm. But it's mostly what I said before. But I think really explore the good intention that we try to do to ourselves before starting to judging it. Really acknowledge and realize the good intention that you do toward yourself. It's sometimes we so too fast forget and go to someone else, and honestly, when I look my own evolution, I think more than I did this with myself, more it was more easy to doing it with others. So it's so for me, It's and it's still not easy with my inner communication or discourse, but 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 the things I think I appreciate more today, it's I'm more conscious, or I see more faster than before my self-criticize voices. And when those criticize pop up, instead of, oh no, I don't want to think like this, I'm more like, what you try to say to me? What is your good intention? And then when I realize more that good intention, it's more easy to say, well, thank you for that good intention, and to step back and say, well, I think I'm good enough to or thank you for the signal, and I will waiting for you, but usually, or at least if I based on my own life, it's not very far ago. I was more like, oh no, and I very fighting with myself, and really a big self-criticized voices was very louder than anything else. And
Mm.
then and I truly think that if you're not taking the time to listening to that voice, and you want to avoid them, more you feed the voice to be louder. So it's so, and I think more that you're welcome and you acknowledge what they said, more the voices taking less presence. It's so yeah.
Well,
That would
what
be
a
my
conversation, Patrick. What a conversation. We've
thank you
covered
very
off
much.
on so many big big topics, ambivalence and discord and humility and vulnerability and empathy and empowerment, versus judgment and control and through to the internal battles and the self-criticism. But of course, it all comes back to compassion, but maybe that's just my bias.
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Of course,
Compassion
I totally
and
agree.
self-compassion maybe
I
is the
totally
thing.
agree. And but for me, I just maybe compassion help ourselves to be less responsible of the problem of others or things like this. It's the 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 basic reaction to try to fix ourselves or fix others give so much food to maintain the reality. And when we have self-compassion, because when I say acknowledge and welcome, for me it's kind of a compassion way
Yeah.
of, of to be with ourselves or with others. So it's yeah.
Mm.
So thank you to you, Astan. It's
Well, yes, Patrick Berthiaume, thank you very much for speaking with me on Compassion in a T-shirt.
thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you everyone to be there and continue to love yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, mate. Good.
Thank you.